The Dravanni did not bow. They had not bowed to anyone in 10,000 years. Every species in the galaxy knew this. Every species in the galaxy feared this. So when the human delegation walked into the throne hall of Akith Prime, they knew the rules. You kneel. You speak the oath of submission. You become a tributary or you die. There was no third option. The hall itself was a monument to conquest. Its walls were carved from bone stone, a material harvested from the skeletal, remains of a species the Dravanni had exterminated. 3,000 years ago, names covered every surface, not Dravanni names. The names of conquered worlds. Here's 200,000 planets, each name carved by the slaves of that world as their final act before being absorbed into the Empire. Nadia Aonquo walked at the back of the human delegation. She was not a diplomat. She was a xenoanthropologist brought along to observe and document. At 34, she had studied 12 alien cultures. She had learned that every species, no matter how strange, operated on logic that made sense once you understood their history. The Dravanni made no sense to her yet, and that excited her. The front of the hall sat High Sovereign Kethvora. She was ancient, 800 years old. Her body was still strong, still terrifying, but it was her crown that drew every eye. The bone crown was not jewelry. It was fused to her skull, grown into her flesh, and it moved. Subtle shifts, tiny adjustments. It tracked threats like a living thing. Ambassador HFY led the human group. His hands were steady, but Nadia could see the sweat on his neck.
He had prepared for this moment for 3 years.
Humanity's future in the galactic community depended on what happened in the next hour. The ceremony began. Species after species approached the throne. With their 6 arms and gentle eyes knelt and spoke the oath. The Korthians, massive and armored, did the same. The Silith, who communicated through color changes in their skin, flashed the submission pattern they had been taught. Each time Kethvora said nothing. The crown shifted slightly toward each delegation, then away, accepted next. Then it was humanity's turn. Ambassador HFY stepped forward. He began to kneel. The crown moved. Not a subtle shift, a sharp sudden turn. It oriented directly toward the back of the human group, toward Nadia. The entire hall went silent. Nadia felt the weight of 1,000 alien eyes. The crown had never done this. She knew enough about Dravanni culture to understand that much. The crown tracked threats. The crown identified prey. It did not single out scholars standing quietly at the back of a delegation. The Kethvora's eyes found her. Ancient eyes. Eyes that had watched civilizations rise and fall. You, the sovereign, said, come forward. Ambassador HFY's careful plans crumbled. He tried to speak to intervene, but a gesture from Kethvora silenced him. Nadia walked forward. Her heart pounded, but her mind was calm. She was a scientist. She observed. She asked questions. She stopped 10 FT from the throne. The crown was fully oriented toward her now, and up close she could see was not truly bone. It was something else, something alive. Why does your crown move toward me? Nadia asked. The question echoed in the silent hall behind her. She heard Ambassador HFY make a small strangled sound. You did not ask the High Sovereign questions. You answered them, but Kethvora did not strike her down. The ancient ruler stared at her with something that might have been confusion. What, your crown? Nadia said, it moves. I have watched it all morning. It tracks each delegation, then dismisses them. But it locked onto me immediately and has not looked away. I am curious why. Is it detecting something about me, or is it responding to something you are feeling? The silence stretched. Nadia could feel the tension in the room. The absolute certainty of every other species present that she was about to die. Kethvora leaned forward. No one has asked me a question in 200 years. That seems lonely, Nadia said. The crown flickered for just a moment. Its constant glow dimmed. Kethvora's expression shifted through emotions too fast to read. Then her face hardened again. The ceremony is concluded, she announced. All delegations will return to their quarters. The human scholar will remain. Ambassador HFY tried to protest. Guards moved toward him. Nadia caught his eye and shook her head slightly. She did not know what was happening, but she knew that resistance would only make it worse. The hall emptied, the massive doors closed. Nadia stood alone before the most powerful being in the known galaxy. Kethvora descended from her throne. Up close, she was even more imposing. 9 FT tall, 4 arms, skin like polished obsidian, and that crown always moving, always watching. You asked about my feelings, Kethvora said. No one has asked about my feelings since I took the crown. They ask for mercy. They offer tribute. They make threats they cannot support, but feelings never. Why not? Nadia asked that Kethvora stopped. She stared at the human for a long moment. Because they afraid of the answer. I'm not afraid. Nadia said it was not entirely true, but it was true enough. The crown pulsed once, twice. Then Kethvora did something that had not happened in 800 years. She laughed. Come with me, the sovereign said. You will explain how a creature so small and fragile learned to ask such dangerous questions, and perhaps I will explain why they are dangerous. She turned and walked toward a hidden door. Nadia followed. Behind them, the crown continued to glow. But something in its light had changed. Something that had been dormant for a very long time was beginning to wake. The private chambers of High Sovereign Kethvora were nothing like the throne room where the hall was a monument to power and fear. These rooms were quiet, personal, almost sad. Nadia looked around as she followed Kethvora inside. Star maps covered one wall, not military maps. These showed trade routes, migration patterns, the movement of species across centuries. Another wall held books. Actual physical books bound in materials Nadia could not identify. A third wall displayed preserved specimens, plants, small creatures, artifacts from worlds she did not recognize. This was not the lair of a conqueror. This was the study of a scholar. You were surprised, Kethvora said. She settled into a chair that seemed carved from the same bonestone as the throne room walls. But here it looked different. Less like a trophy, more like a memory. I am not, he admitted. I expected weapons, battle plans, evidence of conquest. Those exist elsewhere. This room is mine. Kethvora gestured to another chair. Seat. We have much to discuss, and I do not know how much time we have. Nadia sat. The chair was surprisingly comfortable. Time before what? Before the crown decides you are too dangerous to live. Kethvora touched the growth on her head. Up close, Nadia could see it more clearly. It was not fused to her skull. It was growing from it. Part of her, but also somehow separate. You asked why it moved toward you. The truth is, I do not know. The crown does what it wants. I merely try to guide it. You do not control it. No one controls the crown. The crown controls us. Kethvora's 4 hands folded together in a gesture that looked almost like prayer. It has ruled the Dravanni for 10,000 years. It passes from sovereign to sovereign, and each of us becomes its vessel. It amplifies our strength, our aggression, our hunger for conquest, and it suppresses everything else. Everything else, doubt, compassion, curiosity. Kethvora's eyes met Nadia's. I was a scholar once before the civil wars, before my family died, and I was forced to take the crown to survive. I studied other species. I wanted to understand them, not conquer them. The crown has been fighting that part of me for 800 years. Nadia leaned forward, and you have been fighting back every day, every moment. It is exhausting. Kethvora looked at her hands. I have done terrible things. Destroyed worlds. Enslaved billions. The crown demanded it, and I was too weak to refuse. But I remember every name on those walls. Every species we broke. Every life we ended. The crown wants me to forget. I will not. Why are you telling me this? Kethvora laughed again, but this time it sounded bitter. I do not know. The crown should be screaming at me to kill you. Instead, it is quiet watching. It has not been quiet in 800 years. Nadia thought about this. Her training as a xenoanthropologist had taught her to look for patterns, to find the logic beneath alien behavior. You said the crown amplifies aggression and suppresses compassion. What if it reacts to intention? I did not approach you with fear or aggression. I approached you with curiosity. Perhaps the crown does not know how to process that. The crown has encountered trillions of beings. Surely some have been curious. Curious about power, perhaps about how to defeat you or how to please you, but genuinely curious about you, about how you feel and what you think. How many beings have asked you a real question since you took the crown? Kethvora was silent for a long moment. None. Then I'm the first, and the crown does not know what to do with me. The growth on Kethvora's head pulsed. A single flash of light there and gone. The sovereign flinched. It is listening. It hears everything I hear, knows everything I know. Then let it listen. Nadia kept her voice calm. Let it hear this. On my world, we learned that curiosity is how we survive. We are small, weak. We have no claws, no armor, no natural weapons. But we ask questions. We won't understand things. And when we understand something, we stop being afraid of it. You are not afraid of the crown. I'm terrified of the crown, but I'm also curious about it. And right now my curiosity is stronger than my fear. Kethvora stared at her. The crown pulsed again, faster this time. 3 flashes, 4. Then it went dark. The sovereign gasped. Her hands flew to her head. It is not gone, but it is quiet, so quiet. I've not felt this clear in centuries. What happened? I do not know. Kethvora's voice shook. You did something. Your questions, your curiosity, something about the way you think is affecting the crown. Nadia's mind raced. You said the crown is not just a symbol, is alive somehow. What is it really? A parasite, a creature from before our recorded history. It found us, shaped us, made us into its perfect hosts. Kethvora lowered her hands. Her eyes were clearer than Nadia had ever seen them. It feeds on conquest, on the psychic energy of subjugated populations. Every world we take makes it stronger, makes me weaker. And right now, what is it doing right now? Kethvora closed her eyes. Focused, listening, learning. It is confused. You're not like anything it has encountered before. You looked at me and saw a lonely person, not a monster to destroy or a ruler to fear. It does not understand why. Because you looked lonely, Nadia said simply. I study alien cultures. I have seen tyrants and conquerors across a dozen worlds. They all have one thing in common. They all look angry or cold or hungry for power. You look sad. You look like someone who needed to talk. The crown flared back to life. Bright, angry. Kethvora cried out and pressed her hands to her temples. It is not like that. It does not want me to remember what I was before. But you do remember. You told me yourself. You were a scholar. You wanted to understand, not conquer. Yes, Kethvora's voice was strained. The crown blazed brighter. Yes, I remember. I remember being curious. I remember asking questions. Then ask one now. Ask yourself what you want, not what the crown wants. What do you want? The light reached blinding intensity. Then suddenly it died completely. The crown went dark, silent, dead. Kethvora looked up. Tears ran down her obsidian face. I want to not be alone anymore. Nadia reached out and took one of the sovereign's hands. Then let us start there. 3 weeks had passed since Nadia first entered Kethvora's private chambers. In that time, everything had changed and nothing had changed. Out on the surface, the Dravanni Empire continued as it always had. Tribute ships arrived. Military fleets patrolled the borders. Conquered species maintained their quotas of resources and labor. The galaxy still feared a Keth Prime. But behind closed doors, something new was happening. Nadia had been given official status as a cultural advisor. This allowed her to spend hours each day with the sovereign. Without raising suspicion, they talked about everything. Philosophy, history, the nature of power and loneliness. Kethvora spoke of her lost family, her stolen dreams. Her 8 centuries of fighting a battle no one else could see. Nadia spoke of Earth, of humanity's long climb from caves to stars, of the endless curiosity that drove her species forward. And slowly, impossibly, they became friends. The bone crown remained quiet, not dead but dormant. It still grew from Kethvora's skull. It still pulsed with occasional light, but constant pressure had lessened. The sovereign could think clearly for the first time in centuries. I had forgotten what this feels like, Kethvora said one evening. They sat in her chambers drinking a warm beverage that tasted like honey and smoke. To simply exist without the crown pushing me toward violence. It is peaceful, strange, and peaceful. Do you understand why it is happening? Nadia asked. No, the crown has never been satisfied before. It always wants more. More conquest, more tribute, more suffering. Kethvora touched the growth on her head. But since I met you, it has been waiting, watching, almost like it is curious too. Maybe it is. Maybe it has never encountered someone like me before. A human. It has consumed worlds with billions of humans. Not a human. Someone who asks questions without wanting anything in return. Someone who is curious about you instead of afraid of you. Nadia set down her cup. The crown has spent 10,000 years dealing with fear and greed and ambition. Those are the only motivations it understands. Genuine curiosity might be completely new to it. Kethvora considered this. You think the crown is a creature that can learn, can change. Everything alive can change. It just needs the right reason before Kethvora could respond. The door to her chambers burst open. Guards flooded in, followed by a massive Dravanni in military armor. His own skull showed the beginning of a bone growth. Not a crown, not yet, but the potential was there. Grand Marshal Throck Kethvora said. Her voice went cold. You forget yourself. These are my private chambers, and you forget your duty, Sovereign. Thraken's eyes fixed on Nadia with obvious hatred. The military council has noticed your distraction. 3 weeks without a single order for expansion. 3 weeks without tribute assessments. 3 weeks of talking with this creature while the Empire stagnates. The Empire is not stagnating. It is resting. The Empire does not rest. The Crown does not allow rest. I have served the Crown my entire life. My family has protected the succession for 100 generations. I know its ways better than anyone. And I know that what is happening to you is not natural. Kethvora stood. Even without the Crown's active power, she was still imposing. Are you accusing me of something, Marshal? I'm observing that the human has done something to you. The Crown has gone quiet. You have gone soft. These things are connected. Thrakvin turned to Nadia. What are you? What weapon has your species developed that can affect the Crown? I have no weapon, Nadia said calmly. Only ask questions. Questions are not weapons. Then why are you so afraid of them? Thrakvin's face twisted with rage. He stepped toward Nadia, but Kethvora moved between them. You will not touch her. She is corrupting you. The entire military council can see it. The Crown's silence is a threat to everything we have built. If you will not act to preserve the Empire, we will. Is that a threat, Marshal? It is a promise. Thrakvin's hand moved to his weapon. My daughter has been prepared since birth to receive the Crown. If you're no longer fit to bear it, the succession can be accelerated. For a long moment, no one moved. Then the bone crown blazed alive. Kethvora screamed. Her hands flew to her head as power surged through the growth. Her eyes filled with light. When she spoke, her voice was doubled. Her own voice and something older, something hungry. You speak of succession, the Crown said through her mouth. You dare to threaten the vessel with replacement. We have ruled for 10,000 years. We have consumed galaxies. You are nothing but a useful tool. Thrakvin, remember your place. The Marshal fell to his knees. His soldiers followed. The bone growth on his skull pulsed in response to the Crown's power, forcing him into submission. Better. The Crown's voice was satisfied. Now leave. Take your soldiers. Remember who rules here. Dravanni flew, the guards followed. The door closed behind them. Kethvora collapsed. Nadia caught her before she hit the ground. The Sovereign was shaking, tears streaming down her face. The Crown still blazed with power, but her eyes were her own again. It took me, she whispered. For a moment it took complete control. I could see everything, feel everything, but I could not move, could not speak. It used me like a puppet. It was protecting itself. Nadia said, threatened the succession. Threatened you? The Crown responded. You do not understand. Kethvora grabbed Nadia's arms. Her grip was painfully strong. It showed me something. While it controlled me, it showed me what it truly is. What did you see? It was not always like this. The Crown? It was something else once, something that bonded with its hosts instead of controlling them. But something happened. Something broke it. And now it is awake again. Our conversations woke it up, and it is afraid. Afraid of what? The Crown pulsed. Once, twice, its light shifted from angry red to something else. Something almost blue. Afraid, Kethvora said slowly, of being alone again. The throne room had become a prison. Nadia knelt on the cold bone-stone floor, her arms held by 2 massive guards around her. The entire court had assembled tributary species, military commanders, Danny nobles whose skull growths marked them as potential successors. All watching, all waiting. On the throne sat Kethvora, but was not Kethvora. The crown blazed with constant light, and her eyes held none of the warmth Nadia had come to know. The parasite had taken full control. The human is charged with corruption of the sovereign. Grand Marshal Thrak then announced he stood at the foot of the throne, his voice carrying across the silent hall. She has used unknown methods to weaken the crown's influence. She has threatened the stability of the empire. The sentence is death. Nadia did not struggle. She had known this might happen. From the moment the crown awakened in Kethvora's chambers, she had understood that their time was running out. Does the accused have any final words? Dravanni asked. His voice dripped with satisfaction. Ado, Nadia, looked past him directly at the figure on the throne. But not for you, for the crown. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. No one addressed the crown directly. It was unthinkable. The crown does not negotiate with prey, Thrakvin snarled. I'm not negotiating. I'm asking a question. Nadia kept her voice calm. Clear. Crown before you kill me. I need to understand something. What happened to you? You are not always like this. What hurt you so badly that you needed to hurt everyone else? Silence. The crown's light flickered. Answer her. Someone whispered for the crowd. Silence. Throck Van roared, but the crown was already responding. Kethvora's mouth opened and two voices emerged. One was the Cole,